Welcome to the demo of the TalkToTheManager analytics platform. We think you're going to be very surprised at what you see today, and we're very proud of this system and to show it to you. The analytics platform is available to customers who have the advanced performance analytics and reports on their TalkToTheManager plan. What I'll show you here is analytics for 5 different locations under one account. As you know, with our service, you can add as many locations as you'd like under your account, and then you can manage all of those together and look at reports and analytics of all of those locations together. So this example has 5 locations. If you look at the top, you can see the analytics tab. That's where we are. Underneath it, we have 5 more tabs that segment the analytics in different ways. And here you can see we're showing the last 30 days from beginning of March until today. And underneath that all of the times are in Central Time. That happens to be the time zone I've chosen for this demo. And if you want to change what time zone your results are viewed in, because it's from your perspective, not the location's perspective, then you can change that in your profile. As you can see here, this is the message volume by day. This is the number of customer messages that have come in for each day in this time period, and then the colors are for each location. This message volume only shows customer messages, not manager responses. And these are all customer messages that have come in through the TalkToTheManager service. Some of these colors can get jumbled in areas and it's hard to see what's going on. There's 2 ways that you can kind of get to that data and kind of get closer to see what things are. You can show or hide lines by clicking the line, and it will omit that line from the data while you're looking at it. Alternatively, you can also drag and out a range here, and then you can click on each item individually, and if you need to zoom in further, you can even do that. So you can look at each individual data item as you like and see that, let's say here, on Sunday, March 20th at Mama's Cantina number 2, there were 6 messages from customers. To jump back out, just hit the reset zoom button. And anytime with these graphs, you can also click this little hamburger menu, as it's called, download the report as an image. Next, we'll take a look at some of the items around the edge. So at the top right here, you can see that during this time period, we have 71% positive sentiment across all locations, which means 71% of the messages that came from customers were positive, which is fantastic. So we show you a little smiley face. We can also click to view the details of that. I'll show you that in just a second. Below that, we have the management response rate. So this is the percentage of time that a manager will respond to a customer and kind of continue a conversation. It's not always necessary, so don't take this as an indicator of management is doing terrible or whatnot. It's going to be based on the management style and the need or not of responding to customers. So customers don't need to be responded to in every situation. But you can use this metric as you wish in your organization and come up with levels that are comfortable for you. What we do have built in is some numbers where if it dips below a certain percent, it'll kind of show in orange or red. Below that, you can see the average time to respond across all of these locations was over 7 hours, which is pretty big. This will also be different depending on your organization. Sometimes it's okay to reply to customers. It depends on what kind of business you're in. For restaurants, you probably want to be a lot closer to when the customer texted and make sure that response happens as soon as possible. In other types of businesses, it's probably okay to go 24 hours or more to reply to a customer. Every business is going to be a little bit different. But this also has the color coding so that as the average age of response gets older, the color changes from green to this orange to red. And down below that, we have the sentiment turnaround rate. The sentiment turnaround rate is the percentage of conversations that started with a customer texting a negative comment and that were turned around to where the customer replied back with something positive. So this is the percentage of conversations that started negative and ended on a positive note. Now let's look at this area and see what customers are talking about. So what we do is we take each message and we categorize it into one or more categories based on the content of that message. So if someone texts about, wow, the food was great and the staff was super friendly, then that would go under product and staff. And if someone said, this place is really close to work, I love coming here, that would be a location-based comment. And then if you have things like timeliness, we waited 20 minutes in line for a table, or cleanliness. As you can imagine, there might be some cleanliness issues. So we break it all out into these 9 different dimensions. So one message can go into multiple, and then you can also click on these to dig into what that category was like across multiple locations. So this is a conglomeration of everything happening across every location, but you can also drill down. And the little slices here are showing under cleanliness that only 15% of customers that texted something about cleanliness were negative, and the majority, 84.6%, were saying something positive about the cleanliness of the business. So let's go back up to the top. So if we click this, we can see different time periods. By default, it shows last 30 days, but we can also choose last 60 days, last 90 days, last 6 months, even a full year if we want to. Let's click the last 365 days, run that. We can see a lot of data points here. Like I said, it's very compressed, but we can zoom in if we need to look at individual data points. Let's reset that. All of the peripheral information here has all been updated to reflect that time period too. So as you can see here, across a whole year, it's 29 hours to respond. So in the last 30 days, we've actually improved quite a bit. You can break it down by week, this month to date, this quarter. Let's look at this quarter. And you can also choose a custom time period. So if I want to see everything from December through January 21st, then I can see just that and see big spike here at Harbor Sunset. So that's the overview. That's the big picture of what's happening in the organization over this time period. I'm going to go back to the last 30 days again. Now keep in mind that whenever I change this time period, that time period is preserved as I click through all of these tabs and click to drill down into these, so that I never really have to go back and reset my time period. So I'll start first and click on the top tab, which is categories. I can click to here, or I can also scroll down and click into one of these individual ones. It will take me to the same place. But if I show you this categories, what this shows is across the time period, it breaks down by location how many people are talking about accuracy, ambiance, cleanliness. So it's the same metrics as before, but now you can see it where we're comparing different locations. And these are in order of heat. So heat in this case, and if any time you need to figure out what something is, you can always hover over the question mark. This is the percentage that each location contributes to this category. So as for accuracy, 39% of the messages that talked about accuracy came from the Wildfire Pittsburgh location. And then the smallest came from Mama's Cantina number 2. But what you can see here is that we're at Wildfire Pittsburgh, 39% of it came from accuracy. Of that, 43% was positive, 57% was negative. But down here at Mama's, there was just a few messages, only 6% were discussing accuracy, but they were all negative. So you can see by this. So you can see what locations need help in different areas. So if we scroll down to, let's say, cleanliness, Wildfire Pittsburgh and Harbor Sunset look to be doing great on cleanliness. Actually, everyone looks to be doing just fine. We got a few negative here at the top 2. Location, product, staff, value. Let's look at timeliness. So down here at Mama's, it looks like there's only a few people that talk about timeliness, but it's an issue. And you can also sort these if you like to see, okay, where am I doing the best? So as far as timeliness, getting people in, getting them seated, getting their orders attended to, looks like Mama's Cantina number 2 is doing a great job. And Wildfire Pittsburgh is right behind, as you can see here. And you can just reorder these as you need to. So that's categories. Now I'll click over to sentiment. And sentiment just breaks down across each location how many people are speaking positively, what percent are speaking negatively. And what we added here is a count. So at Mama's Cantina number 2, 76% of the messages during the time period from customers were positive, 24% were negative. That's a 31 and 10 positive and negative count. As you can see, there can be a big difference where a swing looks really large. However, if you look at like, well, that was just 3 messages versus another location had 200 messages, then you can see, okay, some places might be at the extreme on a number, but that's probably because they just got a few messages, which is a really small sample set. All right, let's take a look at responses. If I scroll down here, you'll see that we've got the response time in order from smallest to largest. And this is in hours, minutes, and seconds. So you can see Mama's Cantina has an average response time of 1 hour and 5 minutes. The response percent is 38%. These are sorted. These are also sortable, so you can see the response percent across different locations and the sentiment turnaround rate at each location. So if you look at just the default sort, where we have the quickest response time on top, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're responding all that much. This one has a longer response time, but they're responding to almost every customer. And then they have 100% sentiment turnaround time. So the way that you look at this is going to depend on the metrics that are most important to you, and then what are you seeing in your organization as being the right way to measure this. But we give you the tools here. Let's take a look at best and worst. This is going to be really nifty. This might look like a confusing graph here because it's the percent positive messages across all 5 locations across the time of day, and this is going from 6 a.m. Central Time up to, looks like, 11 p.m. But what this does is it allows you to see the best and worst time of day. So across all these locations, the best hour of day is 7 a.m. and the worst hour of the day is 6 a.m., surprisingly. But now remember, that's also in my time zone, so these time zones might be shifted for these locations. But in my time zone, that's the worst hour of the day. Now if I scroll down, you can see sentiment by day of week. The best day of the week is Monday, worst day of the week is Friday. And best meaning we get the most positive sentiment on Monday, we get the least positive, or we get most negative feedback on Fridays. And then sentiment by day of the month. So the best day of the month is the 1st, the worst is the 27th. So this is showing by day of week, this is showing by day of the month. And down at the bottom we have a breakdown of the best and worst by location. So as you can see, Harbor Sunset, the best time of day is 10 a.m., the worst time is 11 a.m., Wildfire Boston, 9 a.m., and worst time is 8 p.m. And then you can see best day of the week, worst day of the week, and best and worst hour of the month. Now let me scroll back up. I'm going to go back to the overview again, but this time, instead of looking at an overview of every location, I'm going to click in and start looking at a specific location. So I'm going to click into, really doesn't matter because I can get there all the same way, but I'm going to click into this positive sentiment to see where our positive sentiment's coming from. Okay, looking good, Mama's Cantina number 2. I'm going to click into Mama's Cantina and see who is managing over there. So we've got Michelle Fry and Hector Boone. So Michelle has 81% positive feedback when she's responding to customers during her shifts, 19% negative, whereas Hector's got 25% positive, 75% negative. Now we did throw in the counts in here for you, so it looks like Hector's only handled total of 1 plus 3, 4 messages. One of those was positive, the other 3 were negative. So looks like Hector's having a little bit of a bad month, but he's not seeing that many messages either. And in the big picture of things, most messages are actually positive. So, but this is something for you to look at. So now they have Mama's Cantina selected. You can see I have the clear location filter button here. I can clear this filter at any time and go back to looking at all locations. But let's stick to Mama's Cantina number 2. So if I click back up to Overview in this top tab, we'll just see message volume by day during this time period for Mama's, okay? And then we can see during this time period at Mama's Cantina, we have 76% positive sentiment, a 3% management response rate. So it looks like there's just not a lot of customers being responded to. An hour and 20-minute time to respond, but 0% turnaround rate. So we haven't measured any that started negative but ended positive. And then you can see what people are talking about at this specific location and whether they were positive or negative on those categories. If I click over to categories, now we can see accuracy, ambiance, cleanliness, location, and what percent of each of those categories was on the shift of each manager. And if I scroll back up to the top, so we've looked at sentiment. Let's look at the responses. We'll see something very interesting here. And that's that Michelle has not responded to customers at all. And Hector has. So where we saw on the other screen, where Michelle was getting the most positive and the least negative, she also doesn't respond to customers, which is interesting. And then if I click over to best and worst, we can see the best and worst just for this location, but also instead of by location this time, it's by manager. And we can see 7 a.m. is the best hour of the day, 8 a.m. is the worst. Tuesday and Thursday are our best and worst days of the week. And then here is more sentiment. 1st and 11th are the best and worst days of the month. And then broken out by, summarized by manager at the bottom. And that is our analytics system. At any time, if you want to clear the filter, you can click here. You can go back to the overview. If you want to click into, let's say, another location, all you really have to do is just go to one of these, like let's say one of the categories where it will break it down by location, and then you can click into, let's say, Wildfire Boston and see what's going on over there. This is a very nice way of looking at locations and managers in aggregate and individually and see how things are going at your locations. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch our demo. Keep in mind that we also have other demos for the other segments of our service. We have a demo for our core service, which is the Talk to the Manager anonymous feedback service that all works by text message. It's a super fantastic program. Take a look at it. We have a video for that. We'll also have a video for our surveys, where you can do surveys by text message, which are initiated by a customer. That's a really great program. We also have a demo for the basic performance reporting, which is different from this. This is our super analytics platform. The basic reporting is basically just sentiment by location and message volume by location. It does not break things out in the dimensions that you see here. It's just sentiment and it's just volume. That does not include any breakdown in response times, turnarounds, categories, or anything like that. It is only message sentiment and message volume by location. Thank you very much and have a great day.